Ms Dallard, could you please state your full name?
Helen Mary Dallard.
Thank you. Can you please follow Ms Pollock's directions?
So just read this out. Okay. I, Helen Mary Dallard, swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give to this commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Ms Dallard. Please take a seat. Yes, Mr Sadler.
Commissioners. Ms Dallard, were you summoned to appear before the Perth Casino Royal Commission today?
Yes.
And the Commission provided with that summons a list of topics which will be covered during your examination? And the Commission invited you to prepare a written statement in relation to those topics?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of that statement which you prepared?
Yes, I do.
And have you read the contents of that statement?
Yes.
And are the contents true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Ms Dallard. Commissioners, I tender the witness statement of Helen Mary Dallard OAM, dated 14 May 2021, which has the number GWC 0003.0011.0001.
The statement with that number will be an exhibit. Thank you, Mr Sadler. Yes, Mr Sharp.
Yes. Ballard, you were appointed to the, you're a former member of the Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia.
Yes.
And in your witness statement at paragraph 10, actually I'll call that up, call up GWC 003. Oh, sorry, yeah, good. You refer to having refreshed your memory from the Government Gazette.
Yes.
Could we please call up pub.006.001.001? So you can see this is the Government Gazette for the 15th of July 2008.
Mm.
Can you see
yes,
that?
Yes.
And can we please go to page 9? So note this is page 3285 of the Gazette of the 15th of July 2008. And do you see at the bottom of the page a document which is headed Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia, Appointment of Members, Instrument 2008? And can we please bring up the next page at the same time?
Can you read that, Ms Dallard?
Can you read that? Sorry.
Well, what do you want me to read?
Yeah, it might be
the whole.
It might be a good idea just to pull out the, if you can,
The appointment.
pop out the relevant part of it.
Yes. Just to start with, can we pop out just the title of the document, please, just so we confirm the title?
Yes, Gaming and Wagering Commission Act of 1987.
Yes.
So, do you want me to read point 4? Is that what you're asking?
No, I think he was asking you to read it to yourself. You don't need to read it out aloud.
I see.
To confirm.
Got
And
it.
then if we turn to the top of page 10, clause 4. And so clause 4, paragraph A, says that Helen Mary Dallard is appointed as a member of the Commission for a term beginning 14 July 2008 and ending on 30 June 2011. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that, is this the Gazette that you looked at to refresh your memory?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioners, I tender that Gazette.
Thank you. The Gazette with the number identified by Mr Sharp will be an exhibit.
At paragraph 12, you state that you do not recall when you retired from the GWC. That's the position? Or?
That was the position for
Yes.
quite a while
Yes.
into the preparation of the statement, and it was only at the last minute with due diligence
Yeah.
that, with a great deal of difficulty, the Gazette revealed when I was appointed.
Yes.
So
And were you appointed for a further term after that term identified in the Gazette ceased? No. So that was the term that you were on the commission was
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
At paragraph 11, you of your witness statement, you say that you were contacted by the then Minister Liliana Ravlich about joining the commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
And had you previously registered your interest in joining a WA government board or commission? Sorry, how did you come to Minister Liliana Ravlich's attention? Are you aware?
Because at the time I was show president of Mundaring.
Yes.
I was also on the local government advisory board, and I was also on the disability services board as well.
And at paragraph 11 of your witness statement, you go on to state that you told the minister that you did not know anything about gambling. Is that correct? And then you state that the minister was clear, or very clear, that she was asking you to join the GWC to be an advocate for the Perth casino, to have some practices in place to consider addiction and to show a sense of social responsibility. And so you understood that you were being appointed to the GWC not because of experience or expertise in gambling, but because of the desire that you would assist with issues concerning gambling addiction and social responsibility. Is that correct?
And it was because the minister knew the work that I did in the community and knew that I would be an advocate for social responsibility. Mm-hmm.
And when you say that the minister knew the work that you did, which work are you referring to?
We're referring to work through the Hills Community Support Group, where I received over $20 million worth of government funding to work with people with mental health issues, people with disabilities, youth at risk. So, and I had done that for 28 years.
And why did you decide to accept the invitation to join the GWC?
Well, because with my knowledge of what the problems were in the community, and as my position with Hills Community Support Group, it was our role to do our best to try and look at practices, perhaps improve practices that led to some of the problems that were out in the community around addiction, around vulnerable families.
So had you seen issues to do with gambling addiction in your work prior to being a member of the GWC?
Only through the fact that parents, vulnerable parents, were spending school holidays in at the casino and children were being neglected because of, I guess, their practices. That was my experience coming from the effect in the community.
And when you decided to, I might be asking you to repeat yourself, but there might be other things you wish to add in response to this question, but when you decided to accept the invitation, what did you consider that you would bring to that role? You've already mentioned some things, but is there anything else you wanted to add about what you thought you would bring to that role?
No, I don't think there's anything else I need to add.
Yes. And just to confirm, when you joined the Commission at that point, you didn't have any specific experience or qualifications concerning the regulation or oversight of casinos or casino gaming?
None whatsoever.
And when you joined the committee, was there a process of induction?
I don't remember any process. I recognise that this is 13 years ago that we're talking about, and
Yes.
I honestly don't remember.
Was there any training provided in matters of gaming or gambling regulation through the course of your time on the GWC?
I don't remember.
Turning to the meetings themselves, you state at your witness statement at paragraph 21 that the meetings went for a couple of hours. Is that correct?
Well, I put that because that was one point that I felt that I did have an idea that it was definitely a couple of hours. It might have been 3.
Okay. And you said it would take, or you'd set aside at least a day or so to review the materials.
It depends how thick the file was that I got sent home.
And other than reading those papers and attending the meetings, were there any other activities that you did in between meetings as part of your GWC Commissioner role?
No.
And so you didn't speak to officers of the department in between meetings, and you didn't speak to other GWC members in between meetings? So one issue that I'd like to address with you is the question of junket regulation by the GWC. Perhaps just as a starting question, what did you understand generally the GWC's role to be in respect of junket regulation?
I really don't think I had any understanding at all. I don't even remember this particular agenda item here that I was given this morning. I see it was during my time, but I don't remember it, no.
I might call, you referred to an agenda item, so I might call that agenda item up just so that we can have it in front of us. So please call up GWC.0002.0016.001 and go to page 337. So yes, I appreciate this is 2010, so some 10 years ago, and you've been provided with the agenda paper only this morning. So you can see the recommendation is at the top of the front page. Can you pop that out, please? Can you pop out the recommendation? So the recommendation that's put by this agenda paper is for the Commission to consider amending the casino control regulations to remove the requirement for junket operators or representatives to be approved by the Commission. You can see that's the...
Okay, yeah.
And do you have a recollection of that meeting?
No,
And
I don't.
And do you have a recollection of how the regulation of junkets was changed during the time you're on the committee?
No, I don't.
All right, I will leave that issue there.
Mm-hmm.
Turning then to some other issues that may have been considered by the board. During your time on the board, do you recall the issue of money laundering being discussed?
No.
Was there any consideration of whether it was part of the GWC's function to have any oversight of potential money laundering at the Perth Casino?
No, I would have thought we would, but no, I don't remember ever going down that path, no.
So you don't remember any discussions
No.
about money laundering?
No.
And during your time on the GWC, was there a responsibility for the GWC to license casino employees?
As far as I remember, but I don't remember the detail, yes.
And what did you understand to be the reason why the GWC had the role of regulating casino employees?
Well, because we got representations from the casino to the Commission, it was clear that the Commission regard the as someone that they needed to get approval from, and that was the whole feeling of the meetings.
And do you recall what sort of matters were being considered when the decision was being made about licensing employees?
No.
So while you were on the GWC, were there discussions about whether it was a role or responsibility for the GWC to stop criminal elements from infiltrating Perth Casino in its operations?
I remember it being at the forefront of being aware of that, but as to how we did it, when we did it, I don't remember. No.
And you mentioned earlier that you had a particular interest when you joined the board in looking at problem gambling and or gambling addiction. And can you explain how? Sorry, if I step back. So was this was the issue of problem gambling or gambling addiction a matter of concern to the GWC?
Yes, and that was evident in the quite considerable discussion we had, perhaps about the casino or with the casino, about the idea of removing the ATM machines or access to funding further away from the gaming table. That was something that was given a lot of consideration as a attempt to break the cycle of the evening or the loss of funds.
And how was that issue? Were there developments in respect of that issue around the placement of casinos while you were on the board?
I can't remember when it happened, but I know that was discussed by the board. That one strategy that might help.
And do you know if that led to a policy or a practice or a change being required?
It did,
casino?
and I couldn't tell you when it was actually implemented. It might have been before my time and it was just reaffirmed during my time, or it might have been during my time. I honestly don't remember, no.
And are you able to say what the requirement was or the policy was that was imposed by the GWC upon the Perth Casino?
No.
And while you were on the GWC, did you understand that the GWC had a role in assessing the suitability of the company that held the licence for the Perth Casino, that held the licence to conduct gaming at the Perth Casino?
I don't remember.
In your witness statement, you addressed the question of obstruction and say that to the best of your recollection during your time on the GWC was never obstructed in the exercise of its powers. Is that correct? And you say that you were never obstructed in the performance of your duties or the exercise of your powers as a member of the GWC.
That's right.
So you didn't have any issues concerning either your personal performance of your role as a GWC member or the GWC as a body being able to properly exercise its functions. There was no issues there?
There was no issue there. The chair, Barry Sargent, made sure there was always a segment where any questions could be tabled, any debate, to make sure that everybody around the table was well informed, and that was the process that was followed.
On that relationship with Barry Sargent, so I understand Barry Sargent at that time was the Director General of the department as well as the chair of the committee, and you describe at your witness statement at paragraphs 29 to 30 that you found the department supported the GWC and that departmental officers appeared to be very knowledgeable.
Yes.
In your opinion, would it be better for the chairperson of the GWC to be independent of the department?
I would like to have a discussion about that, but I couldn't say whether it was good or bad. I haven't had access to the fors and the against of that, so I'm sure there are many, but no, I don't have an opinion on it. No.
So you don't. You are there. Well, what would you say are the pros and the cons?
I really don't know enough to go into that. That wouldn't be fair.
Okay. And then on the question of conflicts of interest, in your witness statement, you refer to the issue of conflicts of interest, and you give an example of how you managed a particular conflict of interest. Is that right?
Yes.
And when you were on the GWC, was there any written policy which dealt with conflicts of interests and GWC members?
I have no idea. And I would add, the reason I would have no idea is because it was so natural to me in every other role that I had, especially Shire President, that it was a natural. So I don't remember it's something I had to learn. It was there anyway in my practice.
And was there any practice regarding the departmental, sorry if I step back, so there were departmental officers who would provide or effectively act on behalf of the GWC and conduct, for example, casino inspections, is that right?
Yes.
And was there any procedure in place for those departmental officers who were acting on behalf of the GWC to advise the GWC if they had a conflict of interest in carrying out those functions?
I don't know. I can imagine, but I honestly don't know.
And as a member of the GWC, would you have the expectation that if there was a conflict of interest in a departmental officer carrying out activities for the GWC, that would be notified to the GWC?
I would absolutely hope so.
No further questions. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Now, Ms. Dullard, we have some lawyers acting for other parties who may want to ask you some questions. So I'll ask first Ms. Seward, who represents the department. Ms. Seward.
Just a couple of brief questions. Ms. Dullard, during your time on the Commission, is it right that during the meetings your agenda packs would consist of papers prepared by departmental officers for your consideration? And those papers would firstly advise you of some of the activities that the staff had been undertaking on behalf of the Commission during the previous month.
Yes.
So a summary of audits and inspections that had occurred and other gambling statistics.
Yes.
And in addition, there may be papers that put up resolutions for all matters that the Commission needed to decide.
Yes, the agendas I think came with a recommendation, and the department would put forward the reasons why they were recommending or not recommending.
And once you had that paper, the Commission members would then discuss the proposal and form their own view.
Yes. Yes.
You didn't understand that you had to do whatever the department told you to do?
No, definitely not. No.
No further questions.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Malone.
No questions, thank you.
And Mr. Garros.
No questions,
Right.
thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Ms. Dullard, I have a couple of questions before we let you go this morning. First, can I just make sure that I understand what you said about the agenda paper that was shown to you about junkets and recommendation relating to how junkets should or shouldn't be regulated by the GWC. You've seen the agenda paper this morning, and that has not refreshed your memory about it.
No, I'm surprised.
You do not have a recollection about it.
No.
I believe that the person who authored that agenda paper might have been a Mr. Toyne. Nick Toyne, who is said to have been the acting Deputy Director of Licensing. Do you recall that gentleman?
No, I don't.
And you've said that you had no previous experience in the regulation of casinos. To what extent did you rely upon the knowledge and expertise of other GWC members in relation to the matters that were brought before you?
I probably relied heavily on the chair to make sure that we had the accurate information to make the right decision. And as I said, debate was encouraged from around the table. I didn't think that anyone around the table was particularly versed well enough to make a decision without the department putting, the best knowledge forward to make sure that we were well informed.
So the chair was Mr. Sargent?
Yes.
And do you recall any specific officers from the department who regularly presented papers?
Well, I seem to think the name Richard springs to mind. There was a lady who was very she went out and I think did a lot of spot checks, travelled around. But I can't remember their names. No.
That's fine. Can I go then to the question of problem gambling and addiction services? That was a particular interest of yours, I understand. Apart from the ATM issue, do you recall whether the GWC, whilst you were on it, provided any other services or regulated any other problem gambling services at the casino?
No,
Or in
I
respect of casino gambling?
no, I can't recall whether we did.
Do you recall a committee that was called the Problem Gambling Support Services Committee?
I would say I'd never heard of that before.
Do you recall if the GWC ever discussed a telephone helpline for problem gambling?
I can remember the casino discussing that when they presented some of the strategies they were looking at, and that's where we discussed it at the meeting. Yes, I do remember that.
And do you know whether either the GWC or the department funded or assisted to fund such a service?
No, I don't even remember how far the discussion ended up, whether it went anywhere.
And then one other form of assistance, counselling for problem gamblers or addiction, or people suffering from gambling addiction. Do you recall any discussion about that?
Yes, there was discussion about that as another strategy. I don't know whether it was about whether they were going to introduce it or it was already happening. I just don't remember that detail.
This is a question about your general impression and view. So whilst you were on the GWC, did you feel that there was sufficient attention paid to the issues of problem gambling and gambling addiction at the casino?
I don't feel I really knew the full extent of what was in place. I don't remember. No, I don't. I just don't remember the detail to which we went. It's just not there.
Were you aware that there was something called the Casino Operations Manual, which regulated or assisted to regulate how the casino ran its operations?
I don't remember that.
And do you remember whether do you recall something called casino directions also, which was another form of regulation of the casino? Thank you. I have no further questions. Is there anything arising from those questions?
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Sharp, Ms Seawood?
No, thank you.
No.
No, Commissioner.
Mr Sadler, any re-examination?
No re-examination. Actually, I'll try one. So I'll just test your recollection about something, Ms Dullard. So the meeting at which the Junket regulation to which you were shown was held on the 23rd of February 2010. Now, I can't show you the document because it's not on the system that we can bring up in front of you, but the minutes for that meeting, they are at GWC 0002 0016 0002, and I think the relevant page is the 23rd page of that, just for transcript reference. And the document will show that you were only in attendance in that meeting till 10:30, and the meeting started at 8:30. I was just wondering if you recall whether you're actually present for the Junket discussion.
I don't recall, and that's maybe why that's really. I feel like I've never seen that before, and I feel like I would have been interested in that, but maybe for some reason I had to leave early. I don't know. I have no
Thank you.
action.
Thank you, Ms Dullard. Now, Ms Dullard, your evidence has finished this morning. However, I am not going to release you for the following reasons, and they may have been already explained to you by Mr Sadler, but I will tell you in any event. You will note that there are two of us sitting today, Mr Murphy and myself. There is a third member of the Commission, Mr Owen, and he is currently sitting in another hearing room hearing evidence from another witness. He will review either the transcript of your evidence or the audio-visual recording of your evidence. It is possible that he will have some questions for you arising out of your evidence. If that is the case, then those questions will be sent to your lawyer and you will be asked to answer them within a certain time frame. And after that, we will release you from the obligations of your summons. That may not happen. If Mr Owen does not have any questions for you, then again we will advise Mr Sadler and you will be released from your summons.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your attendance here today, and the Commission will now adjourn until 2 p.m.
I did put that on the agenda.